and I brought that up with on the support at BuddyBoss, and they were able to fix some of the accessibility features of the platform. So that commitment again also made me more comfortable with having a site that's dedicated to accessibility and accessible travel.
Hello and welcome to the BuddyBoss podcast, where we dive deep into the strategies that will help you build, launch and grow your online communities, courses and memberships. I'm your host, Jason Broderick, Marketing Manager and Head of Content here at BuddyBoss. If it's your first time here or you just haven't gotten around to it yet, click the subscribe button below this video and then click that bell icon to make sure you keep up to date with all of our latest content here at BuddyBoss. In today's episode, I'm joined by Josh Grisdale from TabiFolk, connecting travelers with disabilities to help them navigate the questions they have about their destination so that they can get back to focusing on the joy of traveling. Josh tells us about how the solidification of BuddyBoss as an all-in-one platform has helped him move past the disjointed experience on BuddyPress and bbPress to help his users stay connected to their community in a way that was never before possible. How he realized through his own need for accessible travel that if he wasn't going to create a community around it, then who would? And how the support and success teams at BuddyBoss have gone above and beyond for him and given him the courage and confidence that he needed to push forward. Let's dive in. Hey Josh, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. I know it was a bit last minute. I only asked you to come on yesterday, but it was really gracious of you to make time for me. So tell me a little bit about TabiFolk. Tell me about what it is, what it does, and who it's for.
So TabiFolk is a community for people who have disabilities, or maybe because they're elderly, have mobility impairments or other challenges when they travel, and they have a lot of questions that aren't answered on other websites in terms of accessibility at their destination. And it's a community for them to get together to share information of things that they found, as well as to team up to find answers for the questions they have in a community format.
Amazing. So for the people who are sort of listening and not watching, remind me, you're in Japan, right? It's you're based in Japan. Have I got that right?
That's correct. I am originally from Canada, but I moved here to Japan about 15 years ago now. I actually became a Japanese citizen in 2016.
Oh,
So
nice.
I always say that I'm a 6-year-old Japanese boy in a 40-year-old's body. And actually speaking of Buddy, I have cerebral palsy. So I use a power wheelchair to get around. I love to travel, but whenever I do that, I have a lot of questions with regards to accessibility. So this is something that's very important to me, and I think about it a lot.
And I know because you're obviously based in Japan. Is your site sort of Japan centric, Japan focused, or is it like global? Do you cover multiple regions? Give me a bit of a lowdown on that type of stuff.
No, it's actually completely global. It started off as, it's actually my side hustle's side hustle, if that makes sense. So my side hustle had a baby. So I have a full-time job here in Tokyo, but I found that, as I was traveling around Japan, that there still wasn't enough information about accessibility here in English. There's starting to get more in Japanese, but still very, very little in English. So I created another website called Accessible Japan. So basically like a guidebook to the things you need to know when you're coming to visit Japan and you have a disability. And through that, I found that, I had a contact form like all the websites did at that time. And I kept getting all these questions, and I was really happy to answer them, but I felt that I kept getting the same questions over and over again. And with email, it's just between you and the other side in that conversation. And because of that, it might be great information that I tell them, but then it ends there with them. And then maybe the other person has the same question, and I keep answering it like, well, if people could sort of like listen in on that conversation, it could be useful to them as well. So that's sort of my foray into forums and in groups, and so I felt that if it was a public discussion, then also it would not only just be my own opinion, but other people could maybe have better information that they could add to it. So I created a forum with bbPress on that website, and I thought, oh well, maybe when I like to travel outside of Japan or other places, then I had those questions as well. So I could maybe take this a step further and make some sort of a worldwide kind of community out of this. So yeah, that's how it sort of came into being.
Amazing. I love that. That's a very similar story to how I sort of started my first, I guess, community
Mm,
forum type experience. I was an actor for many years, and but was very into sort of the business side and very into the marketing side of stuff. And people used to
mm,
always. I was also in the union, and I was very active as a an activist within the union, and for workers' rights and stuff like that. So I
mm,
always had people coming to me asking me questions, and the same questions came up all the time, or certainly variations on the same question, or categories of questions that are all to do with very similar topics or whatever. And I thought, why don't I start a blog about this stuff? Because there's no
right.
information out here. The union's content is terrible.
Mm,
There's no other. It's a very niche topic. And so why don't I start a blog? So I that was
mm,
my first foray into it, was content, I guess, creating like blog articles, which then
right.
morphed into a community, building a community around the people who were reading that stuff and who wanted to
Hmm.
engage in more of a two-way discourse rather than just, like, I guess, blogging is like enhanced email. It's still text. You know what I mean? You still have to read
Right.
it. It's not
Yeah.
a. It's still a one-way, one-to-one, I guess,
Mm,
kind of thing. It doesn't lean into the advantages of community in any way.
mm,
Um, so TabiFolk is the global community
mhm.
aspect which grew out of Accessible Japan, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's was it the Tokyo Olympics? They started a campaign after the Paralympics called "We the 15%" or "We the
Mm,
15," and it's that that globally 15% of the world population has some sort of disability,
mhm.
and if you add on to relatives and friends with that, I mean, it's a huge market,
Mm,
and it just was remaining untapped. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to get into that.
mm. So you have a full-time job. What is it what's your full-time job, by the way?
So I work at a company that runs elderly care facilities as well as nursery schools and kindergartens.
Mm,
And we also have a medical clinic as well. And so I was sort of thrown into IT when I got there because I didn't really have any to fill the skill set. And I had worked on web pages in the past, so I sort of inherited maintaining all of the different websites that they had uh, for each different facility. We have about 15 different facilities. So I've seen them move from the old school using Dreamweaver, HTML via putting it up with FTP to now they're all on WordPress, thankfully. So much easier to handle. But so I take care of that, but also I'm sort of the sole natural English speaker at our company. So we have a couple projects that are in the States and with some other countries as well. And so I'm sort of the communications. I'm stuck in the middle with those as well. So a little bit of tech, a little bit of diplomacy, I guess. So
yeah, diplomacy. I like it. I like it. Yeah. So I guess you're making yourself indispensable in multiple ways to the company by being the only the only one who can, who's a natural English speaker as well as, like, doing there. So you actually kind of manage or have some kind of, like, you're involved in the IT, like, web department. You're not necessarily a developer, but you do some of the web stuff for them,
yeah,
basically.
I've sort of moved into the marketing department now. So I
Cool.
also sort of do the YouTube channel for it as well.
Nice.
So
Whoop
it's
whoop.
sort of basically anything that nobody wants to do, I have to do it. So if it has
I
a
love it.
keyboard and has to do with English, then yeah, I'm in charge. So
So, you have this full time job, you were experiencing, you love to travel,
mhm,
you are, you're experiencing, difficulties with traveling, or you certainly are experiencing challenges with traveling. So you decide
mhm,
you want to launch the first website, which was Accessible Japan, and subsequently TabiFolk, which is more of a global community.
mhm.
So, what was the biggest challenge that you faced when you first started to build your website? What was the sort of the very first thing you struggled with?
Yeah, so actually, I changed midway. It was originally called the Accessible Travel Forum, which was one of the worst URLs to always have to type in every day. So I
Great,
one of the things I
great for
rebranded.
SEO about 10 years ago, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, accessible. Yeah, yeah,
So
long.
so when I started that, I was actually focused just on a forum. So I did a lot of research, and I came up with that bbPress was probably going to be the best way to go forward with that. That's probably about maybe 2017, I want to say.
Hmm.
And then going through number of different rabbit holes, I also found out about BuddyPress and that you could combine the two. And that's actually how I first came into contact with BuddyBoss, is through the Boss theme, the original
Hmm.
Boss theme. So that's how I first became a customer there. But just at that point, there was the learning curve, but on top of that, there was no real central place you could go to for help. There's forums about I want to do this, and sometimes some people might get back to you, sometimes they might not, or you have all this huge number of quite out of date um, plugins doing functionality that you hope they're doing that, and if you have a problem, it's either you don't know where to go ask, or if you go to ask something, well, that's not our problem, that's the other plugins problem. And so there was just a lot of frustration trying to put all these things, glue them together to try to make some sort of working site. So that was definitely one of the challenges back then, for sure.
Mm. That's a very similar experience I had to, to my kind of exploration of bbPress and BuddyPress. One of which being, an extension of WordPress.org, and one of the things I never could I guess wrap my head around or grapple with was, for such a big organization like WordPress.org,
Hmm.
the support forums don't seem to have advanced in any way in sort of 10, 15, maybe
Mm.
even, I don't know, 20 years, like longer than I've been developing anyway. Certainly for any of the free plugins on the WordPress repository, one of the requirements is, you may already know this, but one of the requirements is if you have a free plugin on the WordPress repository, you are required to operate your support through the support forums on WordPress.org.
Oh, okay,
That's
I didn't
part of
know
the
that.
deal. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why BuddyBoss isn't on the WordPress repository. Because if we allowed it, it's freely available. The BuddyBoss platform is free,
Mm.
but if we put it on the WordPress repository, we then have a requirement to provide support for free through the repository, through the
Right.
support forums on the repo, and it's a terrible experience to try
Mm.
and do that. I don't know. I'm sure you've
Oh,
found
yeah,
yourself trying to find answers to people from the community, and like the thing about it is the people behind that are amazing people,
mm.
offering support for help for free and
Hmm.
volunteering their time and energy. And the actual information, I have no doubt there is a wealth of useful information in there, but
Hmm.
just trying to navigate it all, trying to explore it all, trying to pinpoint something when you need just this one thing.
Hmm.
It's an experience to me that is ripe for an overhaul.
Mm.
And that, to me, that experience is mirrored in the experience I had with BuddyPress
Hmm.
and bbPress, where
Yeah.
their own, because they're also both free platforms,
Right.
which back in the day provided the foundation for the BuddyBoss platform.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, both of their sort of what they need is they need to go rebuild their own forums, let
Yeah.
alone
Yes.
let alone provide the tools for somebody else to go build their forums.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started, you discovered BuddyPress, discovered bbPress, kind of realized they could kind of work together, and
Hmm.
then your entry point to the world of the BuddyBoss was the Boss theme.
Yeah.
That was same as me. Once you sort of discovered the Boss theme and you were still using bbPress and BuddyPress, how did the BuddyBoss ecosystem like help you build or grow, or faster or easier? Did that make it easier or better for you to do that?
Oh, for sure. When you guys switched over from just the, not just the theme and various plugins to the actual platform, it was that's why actually when I changed to TabiFolk, because I sort of thought, oh well, let's just do this all together new kind of thing. And like it sort of really helped for those problems where like I don't know where to go for something, because or I get bounced around between a couple of different plugins kind of thing. And having the support system on BuddyPress, sorry, BuddyBoss, which is it's something that I'm always amazed at, the speed with to get back to. A lot of times going above and beyond what's required. I just really felt that I have the security of a place that can, that will have my back for the world, the web price, sorry, the website that I want to create and the community I want to create, and knowing that BuddyBoss is behind me in that, really gives me the encouragement to go forward. So I
Mm.
think that was one of the biggest things that changed, and also, the vision, seeing the roadmap out ahead, really helped me to know that the BuddyBoss team was, full of, lofty goals, but also, had a vision of where they wanted to go. And that sort of really helped me feel security again, that this is something that I will be able to continue on for however number of years ahead. And so, yeah, so that security, it just really gave me the encouragement to go ahead with what I was doing.
Well, awesome. Um, that's really, I love to hear that. Because that's the whole ethos behind BuddyBoss is like, making it easier, faster for you to not have to worry about the technology so much, and for you to be able to focus on the vision that you have for your community.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly I had the same experience when I built my community. It was night and day the day I discovered BuddyBoss, the
Mm-hmm.
platform, the BuddyBoss theme. This was years before the app existed even. Suddenly this whole world of possibilities was opened up to me that never was before. I'd been living inside Facebook groups. My
Mm-hmm.
most of my organization's life had existed in. We've got 3 Facebook groups still to this day that are over 50,000 members in size. And the limitations of that were, just constantly stifling creativity, stifling ideas,
Mm-hmm.
stifling innovation. And suddenly then I woke up one day and discovered BuddyBoss, and the doors were open for what I could
Yeah.
achieve. Ah! Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. You've got the good light, like, just
Yeah.
over your head as well. It's like literally. Yeah, I love that. So let's talk a little bit about accessibility then for a second.
Mhm.
So, normally, for other customer stories, we might dive into, their site a little bit more, or whatever
Mhm.
their niche topic is about a little bit more. So for you, I'd love to ask you a few questions
Mhm.
about sort of the kind of broad topic of an accessible web. So as I mentioned earlier on in the interview, my sort of my I guess experience in building an accessible web, to sort of put an
Mhm.
umbrella term on it, mostly started with my client, the union, that has a legal obligation to make everything that they produce accessible up to
Mhm.
the highest industry standard that is practicable, whether that is for print, for web,
Mhm.
for the buildings that they operate in, every single thing. Because they're an official union, they have to
Mhm.
do that. That is a requirement of them. So
Mhm.
that there's advantages to that, which is one of which is they have a budget allocation to research and develop whatever it is that they need to do in order to reach those standards. Because if they
Mhm.
didn't reach those standards, they wouldn't be allowed to continue to operate the rest of their services for the rest of the union too.
Right.
So I was tasked with building their new website, their new community platform.
Mhm.
And one of the areas that because I have no physical impairment, I have no disability of any kind, I brought in an accessibility consultant to work with
Mhm.
me. And one of the areas that I found most fascinating was she told me, one of the first things she told me was that rather than thinking about it like you're building an ideal experience and then you are building an accessible experience, or that you're building an ideal experience for most people and then you
Mhm.
go and sort of deconstruct that to make it
Mhm.
accessible, that the best way in terms of creating the best experience, but also sometimes the most cost effective way, is to do that the other way around, to
Mhm.
consider an accessible experience in parallel, or in the same way that you would an experience for any other subgroup of
Mhm.
people that you might want to focus your efforts on.
Mhm.
And she likened it to me like in marketing, you would never create an ad for a 50-year-old man and expect that ad to perform well, or provide a good experience to a 14-year-old child on TikTok. And
Mhm.
so as a marketing department, we go and we sort of outline the different groupings of people that we
Hmm.
need to address, and then we go and we create an experience just for them. An
Hmm.
experience that is ideal for them, and
Hmm.
we devote resources and energy to optimizing or enhancing all the elements of that experience, just thinking about that group. And to my
Hmm.
mind, that's the sort of the opposite way that most people approach building an accessible web. They sort of,
Right.
like I said, they go and create, they have all these ideas for this flashy website that they want, this amazing, beautiful looking
Hmm.
website that has all these bells and whistles. And then in the last 1% of their development time, they think, oh yeah, how do I make this accessible? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just whack in an accessibility plugin. Great, we're
Right.
sorted now. We're good. We're all good. And this idea of creating an ideal experience and then degrading that experience in order
Mm.
to make it accessible.
Hmm.
So I'd love to get your thoughts on, firstly, telling me whether that was a load of crap what I just said, or more probably, does that experience ring true for you? And if you have any other thoughts about what it kind of means to you to build an accessible web.
Yeah, for sure. Um, on a physical parallel, I think it's sort of a new term now, universal design. It's something at least
Mm,
particularly used in Japan here. So it's a design for everyone. And if you start from that foundation, they it's not difficult to make accommodations for everyone to use it. I love bringing up that once I went to the New Zealand embassy here in Tokyo, and they were excited because I had a different appointment there. They're like, "Oh, we just put in a ramp. Come look at the ramp, and we're going to take a picture on the ramp because here are the first guy in a wheelchair to go use the ramp." And they're really excited about it. And the thing that stuck most with me is that the guy making the deliveries for the post, he had all this stuff on a dolly, and he's going up the ramp with it. And so having the ramp was therefore, in their minds, accessibility for people with disabilities, but it made his life so much more easy than having to try to carry it up the flight of steps. And so having, universal design is good for everyone. And I think that reflects as well in web design, software design, where um, making an interface that is easy to use, is easy to navigate, is visually, has good contrast and stuff like that, is a good experience for everyone as well. And so I think that in the last number of years, I've have a lot of confidence in WordPress as a foundation. They've had accessibility first as one of their cores for a while now. So WordPress itself in general is the base the basics are a lot of the basics are covered for accessibility. And then sort of after that becomes again up to the sort of plugins. So you have to be careful in what you choose. And there are some useful plugins for accessibility as well that can alter things like contrast, text size, colors, etc., which are definitely useful as well. Um, but I was concerned about that at one point when I was navigating with BuddyBoss, and I reached out to Tom about well, what's it like for accessibility? And he said, actually, I think he was talking about you. He's like, actually, we're in the process of hiring somebody who has a lot of experience in accessibility, so don't worry. That was really something. Is we've had some interactions with you as well online about that, and I think that, as mentioned before, something that a lot of people with disabilities want is information. And what's the internet? It's access to information, and it's had a huge impact on a lot of people with disabilities, physically, who maybe can't get out of their homes in the same way, to have access to the wider world. But I think particularly for my accessibility on the web, I think the biggest aspect would probably be people with visual impairments. Um, it would probably be the biggest segment, I guess. And there's a lot of different varieties in that as well. But so things that are easy to navigate without being able to see it, or to be able to have a good spacing and contrast between elements as well for people who maybe have some vision, and also just easier for people also with motor impairments. They can't maybe use the mouse in the same way. And I think that with the customizability of BuddyBoss, it's really easy to do a lot of those things. I loved it in the theme 2.0 that you could have the big icons, and replace a lot of the wording to make it a little bit easier to move around, but at the same time maintaining the ARIA tags and stuff like that, so it's easier for somebody using a screen reader as well. So I think I really want it to be a democratized system for all people with all abilities to be able to get access to the same information. So I'm excited to see where things go, but it's something, again, it's a journey, and we'll need to work through these things together.
So,
Mhm.
what's been the biggest highlight or benefit to you personally of creating TabiFolk?
So for myself, it's a great resource for me to also ask people for help, because I like to travel. So sort of, I built Accessible Japan because it was the guide that I wanted to have when I first moved to Japan, and I built TabiFolk because it's the community that I want to have when I do my travel as well. Um,
Mm.
but again, going back to, yeah, the having BuddyBoss behind uh, the platform and the system, and the app as well. I'm hugely excited about the app. And just the care that I felt being part of the BuddyBoss community. I bought the app. I bought the very, very early bird, super great deal, lifetime deal, and I'm very happy
Super,
for it.
super early, extra, wake up early in the morning and yeah,
Yeah,
early bird deal. Yeah.
yeah, I bought that one. But actually, I haven't published my app yet. That's a me thing. But one of the things that I think really impressed me was that I got an email a while back from the satisfaction team saying, we know that you bought the app, but you haven't published yet. Is there anything that you want to talk about, that you need any help with, etc.? And they were really, keen to listen to the things that I was thinking about, along terms of that. And so that,
Yeah.
again, just really reminded me of, the family and the support that there is here in the team, that gives me the confidence to move on. So
Mm.
the me
That's
problem is that
that's Graham, Graham
oh
and his
yeah,
customer success champions, his
I'm,
customer
I'm too much
success
of a
heroes.
oh yeah, they're great, yeah. So and yeah, just felt that I was really being listened to, in some of the thoughts I had about that, and to know that that's there are things coming that are even more exciting. I have a
Mm.
problem that we had the roadmap before, and I'm glad it changed format, because it was always sort of like, uh, 2021 quarter one this, quarter two that, and I started looking further and further down, like, oh, that looks great. I know I'm gonna get really excited about that, and that I would never really focus on building my community. I was always
Mm.
busy looking at, oh, I'll wait before we do my next release on this and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
and I remember, like, last week's guest, Toyin, I was talking, she's like, you just gotta move. You got to do it. You can't just, like, wait for
100%.
this or
I
wait for that.
absolutely
Yeah.
agree. For
So
sure. That's the number one thing that that I would say that is the one piece of advice that I give customers most often is if you want to wait for a great feature that's coming up, you'll be
mhm.
waiting forever for everything, because as
Yeah.
soon as we launch that feature, there's going to be another feature, and as
Hmm.
soon as we launch that one, there's going to be another one. And
Yeah.
there is, I can promise you now, to everyone listening and to everyone watching, that in our minds, whether it's on the roadmap or not, there is a never ending list of amazing stuff that we're exploring and developing and building. And
Hmm.
so launch now.
Yeah.
Launch now with what you've got available to you now, because there will always be another thing that you want
Hmm.
to, that another exciting thing that you just can't wait for, or oh, would it be
Yeah.
great if I just do this. The other thing as well is that in the time, for example, for you, Josh, you bought the app like last year. You've not launched your app yet, maybe because there's certain features missing or whatever. Let's say, for example, there might be something else, but let's just say let's say because it was because you were waiting for something.
Hmm.
Think about all that time that's passed that your community has not been able to benefit from the app.
Hmm.
Benefit from the 80% completion. Like,
Hmm.
we coach people to building their apps all the time, and they come up with these grand plans for everything that they want to have in their app before they launch it, and we always say, no, 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 no. Start with the core, start with the MVP, start with the crucial features, and get
Hmm.
it into the hands of your users, because
Hmm.
firstly, they can then start benefiting from that from day one. They don't have
Hmm.
to wait 6 months, 8 months for you to do that. So
Hmm.
don't wait. But secondly, as soon as they get it into their hands, they're going to be giving you feedback. And that feedback is going to mean that your plans might change. You might realize that one area has more importance than another. You might realize that one area that you wanted to spend loads of energy and time on creating and enhancing, actually they don't care about, or they
Yeah,
don't engage with, or is not in a format
exactly.
that they're interested in.
Hmm.
And so, like, if for anyone listening or anyone watching or whatever, I would
Hmm.
say if you're on the fence because you're waiting for something,
Hmm.
launch it now and start gathering the data on how your users are using it today, and give them the benefit of, even if in your mind it's only 80% what you wanted it to be, give them the benefit of the 80%, because right now you're taking that 80% away from them because
Hmm.
of the remaining 10-20% of that you're waiting for. What do you think the biggest benefit to your users has been of choosing BuddyBoss to be your platform?
Yeah, so I think that the way that as things keep moving forward, the solidification, I guess you'd say, of it as a platform, as a, it's not BuddyBoss, as I say, it's not BuddyPress and it's not bbPress smushed together with some random plugins that sort of how this sort of sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work kind of thing. As the BuddyBoss platform keeps moving on, things get easier to use as users as well. A place where, like the controlling their notifications all in one, easy to understand location, their settings, and the way the groups and forums can be integrated together. I've chosen on my sites to have only forums as part of groups. And so that, as you know, like, you can share activity things, but if you want to have a deeper discussion, you go to the discussions tab.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that works much better under the BuddyBoss platform than it did ever with, BuddyPress and BB, bbPress smushed together kind of thing. The notifications as well work really well for bringing people back. So it helps them, to stay connected with the community in a way that, again, wasn't really possible with something that was sort of ad hocly thrown together. So that's one of the things I think that's definitely helped them. And also the coding standards. It's the way things keep getting faster and more beautiful. I'm like I really love the theme 2.0. For again, going back to myself, I was able to throw out a lot of CSS, and I sort of, it was a good sort of time just to reevaluate all the things, which helps, speed things up and stuff. So, and I think that the new features of Theme 2.0, make it much easier to navigate, to understand, and very unified with the app as well. So, which
Mm.
will be released soon.
Yeah, I'm going to be pressuring you now from
Yeah.
next week on to be like, is it live yet? Is it live yet? Is it live yet? That's awesome. So tell me then, what's the next big thing that you're focusing on building or doing with Tabbyfolk?
Yeah, right now I'm really trying to build up community numbers. And of course, um, I don't know if you've known this, but we've had a pandemic for the last year or two, and maybe
We've
I
had
don't
a
know if you know that.
what?
Yeah,
A pan what?
which hasn't really helped for travel or travel
Mm.
related websites. So and it's been good because it's sort of giving me time to build up what I have and focus on that. But I really want to start, as people start thinking about travel more, I want to be right there that, and even if people, for example, people with disabilities may be people who are a bit more hesitant to travel yet, now is the time that you can start planning. And that's
Mm.
what we want the site to be there for. And so I'm also going to try to get on more travel providers or companies, travel adjacent, within the accessible travel space, that are willing to be there to use it as a place to, in the future, be able to advertise to a very specific audience,
Mm.
but also just to be there to do indirect advertising by being there to answer people's questions
Mm.
under their company's name. And so, I really want to try to build up regular usership over the next couple of months, I guess.
Cool. So nice. That's the end of the long questions. Now we're
Okay.
now it's like I feel like an A levels or a GCSE test. Where you have like the long questions you have to do. You have to write your essay, and
Yeah,
then we have the short questions, just the quick answer ones. Are you ready for the lightning round questions?
I think I am.
Cool. All right. So great. Let's jump into the lightning round questions then. So first one
Okay.
is, what's your favorite business motivational or inspirational quote?
Yeah, I think probably for me personally, after our discussion about the app, is from Nike for just do it, and not to to just keep puttering around until things are 100% perfect, just to
Yeah.
move. And then also for myself in the in terms of disability accessibility kind of thing, it's if I don't do it, then who's going to do it?
Mm.
Kind of idea, like for especially for the accessible Japan, there wasn't really many other people who had experience living in Japan with a disability who could also speak English. So if I don't put that out there, then who's going to? And
Yeah.
same way with TabiFolk, it's like, well, if I don't do this, I really want somebody with a disability be leading this project. So if I don't do it, I don't want to wait around for somebody else to do it. So just do it. So
For sure. That's it.
mhm.
That's it. Yeah, I love that one. Sort of a parallel would be, if not now, when? If
Mm,
not me, who?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I don't know who that was quoting.
yeah.
Nelson Mandela. I'm not sure. Whoever it was, they were a very clever person. Whoever they were,
It also
I
brings
can't
up
remember.
Rage Against the Machine, I think, but I'm not sure. But they're probably quoting somebody else. But yeah.
Yeah, I love Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, now I'm remembering that song and I've got it playing in my head.
Yeah.
Um, what's the number one place that you go online to learn about
Mhm.
building or growing your community or business?
I'm yeah, pretty old school with that. It's more if I have a question, I'll go look somewhere. So I
Mhm.
use Google, YouTube videos a lot for figuring those kind of things out. Um, and I've been thinking that I really need to take a marketing course on Udemy or something like that, just to strengthen that part of it as well. So especially, I mean, it's related to my work as well, my actual day job. So I should probably do that as well. Get them to pay for
Yeah,
it.
maybe I was just going to say maybe you could
Yeah,
convince them to pay for one, and you might find one that's not maybe a little bit higher quality than Udemy. I guess there's some good stuff on Udemy.
yeah, true.
Um, so what's the one thing that you wish you knew before you started TabiFolk?
I think probably about like servers and stuff like that. I my previous stuff had always been on like SiteGround or something like that. So where it's sort of like more hosted, kind of not necessarily dynamic or powerful enough to host a community. And an app on top of that. And then also, if you do go into their cloud stuff, it's really expensive, and it's also very, they got their fingers and everything kind of thing, so you can't really customize it. So, yeah, so it's something I wish I knew more about, so I could fix those problems on my own, I guess. So
Oh, and where are you hosted now?
now I'm on Vulture, but I have credits for Amazon for their startup program, so
Yeah, nice.
um, I will move to that once, like, because it's still a bit more expensive than Vulture. So I'll
Yeah,
I'll wait till I need to move over, then I'll move over. But
that was the exact same situation for me too. I'm on Volter. I have the ability to. I don't have them yet, but I have the ability to get. I think it's like $1,000 in Amazon
yeah,
credits or
yeah,
something that you
yeah,
can get. But doing so would increase the cost. Like spending those 1,000 credits would
and
actually
then after it's
increase
over,
the
yeah,
cost for me. Like,
yeah,
so it doesn't really make much sense right now. Like,
mhm,
I have my emails on SES and stuff like that, which is dirt cheap. But actually moving servers isn't as, even though they give you $1,000, it isn't as
yeah.
practical or
You still have
affordable
two
as
years
it.
to use it though, so yeah, so that's sort of my
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
anyway. So and
After
also a
after
bit
2 years, they'll just
motivation.
migrate the site back.
Yeah, or that motivation now that I need to get to the level where I need that amount of server. So I
Yeah,
need that
yeah,
many
yeah, yeah.
users. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got 2 years to make use of these credits, and so either you move server now, and then you've got $1,000 worth of credits to, like, even give you a bigger push, or just push yourself quicker further now, so that
yeah,
gives you the motivation to actually need a server that beefy. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, if you had to start TabiFolk all over again, what's the very first thing that you would do if you only had $500 to do it?
Well, I'd probably hire West Hatters from the community to help set me
I
up on a
love it.
on a good server, and get
And
ready
you
to
would
go
and
from
you would
there.
get him
And
for 1.2 hours.
yeah, I'll get him down on that, but we'll see. But yeah,
Nice, nice.
for having that solid base, I think is really really important. So
Yeah. So Wes is obviously amazing. He's doing some stuff for us internally now too, which is really great. And so in previous interviews and other guests, I think it's really crucial that most of the other people I've asked that question to have all said a similar thing, which is to invest in people quicker. So that it's not just me on my own. It is, like through the community maybe, or through just experience of doing whatever. We've all built these relationships with people now that if only we had those people in our lives 2 years ago, 5 years ago, we would probably be much further along than we would now. So, you don't necessarily want to take your $500 and spend it on ads or spend it on whatever. Yeah. It's like, no, you want to find people who know more about something quicker than you, and get, bring people into your team, I guess. Exactly, investing in your team. So what about the flip side of that question then? So if I was to give you $1 million today, what's the very next thing that you would do to go and grow or build TabiFolk?
I think that the thing that I want to solve with TabiFolk mostly is to help people find the answers to the questions that are very specific to them, likely, about the destinations they want to travel to. And so I also want to provide employment opportunities for people with disabilities in local communities. So it'd be really great to have, sort of concierges for each different group, or sort of like similar to moderators, I guess, but concierge, so that they can introduce the places they live to help answer those questions, and also provide the employment opportunities as well for them. So that would probably be that, and then after that, maybe hire somebody to do social media, because I don't really like doing it, but having that sort of off my plate would help me focus on other things. So that kind of thing.
That's awesome. So tell everyone a little bit about where they can find more about you, where they can find TabiFolk online. Tell people how they can sort of get a little bit more info about TabiFolk and where they can connect with you.
Yeah. So actually, I should probably tell you what TabiFolk means.
I don't know yet.
Is the Japanese word for journey. And so folk is, of course, people. So people on a journey. So that's where the name comes from. It's spelled TABI and then FOLK. So it's TabiFolk on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's all that. And it's tabifolk.com is the site. People can also get me on Twitter as well. I'm at Josh Grisdale. So not always related to TabiFolk stuff. So if you want some mumblings of some guy in a wheelchair in Japan, then you're welcome to listen to that as well. But so those are how people get in touch.
That was Josh Grisdale sharing with us how TabiFolk is helping people with disabilities rediscover the joy of traveling. If you run an online course, community, or membership site powered by BuddyBoss and you'd like to feature in an upcoming episode, then head over to buddyboss.com/podcast and fill out the form to get in touch. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to let us know, then make sure to hit that like button below and then leave me a quick comment and tell me what's the one most valuable thing that you learned from this episode. That's it from me. Until next time.